Welcome to my Direct3D video tutorial series, where I'll hopefully be teaching you how to use the Direct3D API to create graphical applications. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about the Direct3D API, downloading and installing the DirectX SDK, and setting up the SDK with Visual Studio 2008. These tutorials will not at any point go over any differences between Direct3D and OpenGL, which is better or worse or anything like that, because let's be honest, they're just as good as each other, just doing the same kind of things in slightly different ways. I just prefer Direct3D because it suits my style of programming better. Before we start, I'd like to give you an idea of the recommended knowledge to get the most out of these lessons. These lessons all involve the use of the Direct3D API using C++, so if you don't already know C++, then I'd recommend you go out and learn how to use the language. I'm going to be going over some basic Win32 window programming in the next lesson, so learning about it isn't required. I've also separated the Win32 lesson, as those people who already know how to use the API can skip it. It's highly recommended that you have at least a basic understanding of matrix maths. As a programmer, it's useful and desired to know a fair amount of maths. Besides, without knowing matrix maths, some of the concepts of graphics programming will just be hard to understand, such as converting 3D stuff in the 3D world onto your monitor, which is a 2D plane. That aside, I'm going to be using the Visual Studio 2008 using these video tutorials. I'm currently using the Professional Edition, however the Express Edition is just as good and you can download it for free. There aren't really that many features missing from the Express Edition that I use for the most part. I also use Microsoft Visual Studio 2010, and I found that the only difference is the setting up of the SDK. I've not attempted to use any other compilers with the Direct3D API, however I'm sure that it'll work fine. That said, I'm not going to answer any questions relating to the particular compiler you're using. Right, as for downloading the DirectX SDK, head to Microsoft's developer website, which is usually MSDN. Head to Downloads at the top, go down to Microsoft SDKs, and DirectX SDK should be under the Games heading. Click on this link, and when the description comes up, just check it's the right file you're downloading. Sometimes I've accidentally downloaded the end user runtime and wondered why it wouldn't work. The file, if you look down here, should be around 500 to 700 megabytes. Depends on which version of the SDK it is. In this case, the latest version is the June 2010 version, which is 571 megabytes. So click the download button, and once you get onto the download page, it should start after 30 seconds, or just click start download. I usually just click start download and save that to wherever you want. Let that download and install it to your hard drive. The installation is incredibly easy. There's no messing around with options, perfectly straightforward. I've installed my SDK in an easy to find location. The default installation path is on your primary hard drive, usually C drive, in your program files folder, and to the Microsoft DirectX SDK folder, and in brackets it has your current version. As you can see, I've not updated to the latest version yet. I'm still on the February 2010 version. Don't worry though, these video tutorials go over content that can be used by any version of the DirectX SDK that supports Direct3D 9. Once installed, head into Visual Studio, then go to the Tools tab, then to Options, and under the Projects and Solutions header, we need to go to VC++ Directories. We then need to hit this drop down menu up here under Show Directories For, and select Include Files. What we then need to do is create a new line, hit the little three dots, that'll open our Open File dialog. Navigate to our installation Then once we're in this folder, we need to go into our include folder. It won't show anything, but we need to select the folder. What that'll do is it will make sure that whenever you compile anything, all of the include files for the DirectX SDK will be included and you'll be able to use them. We also need to hit the drop down menu again and select library files. Doing the same thing, add a new line, hit the three dots, navigate to our installation, and this time we want to be going into the lib folder and then into the x86 folder. That makes sure that we include the 32-bit library files rather than the 64-bit library files. Now when you select that folder and OK. That's it for setting up the DirectX SDK with Visual Studio. In the next lesson I'm going to show you how to create a window using the Win32 API. We need a window for our Direct3D code to be able to be shown, and therefore learning how to create one is unavoidable. Once that's done, we can start setting up Direct3D in our application.